Ever feel like the more you track, the less you actually know? This is called the scale paradox. The irony that as a company gathers more data in Jira, the actual progress of the work becomes less visible. Once you hit that 5,000 issue threshold, standard manual tracking doesn't just slow down, it breaks. But does it have to be that way? Today I'm going to show you how to compass these thousands of chaotic data points using structure for Jira into a single high-fidelity view that your stakeholders can actually understand and use it to drive results. Let's dive in. When you cross that 5,000 issue threshold, you enter what we can call a data fog. It's a state when you have more information than ever, but less clarity. Such fog is built on three major traps. The first trap is getting lost in the weeds. Instead of seeing the overall health of a massive initiative, stakeholders get distracted by individual tasks. They can be looking at one ticket that is in progress, but in fact missing that the whole roadmap for a quarter can be 20% behind the schedule. You are looking at the trees, but the forest is on fire. Now, in this example, you can see clearly that my backlog exceeds 5,000 work items. You might say, okay, but I can organize my work, my initiatives into different spaces, and this way I will not exceed such a limit. However, there are other limitations that you will encounter. In the standard version of Jira, you only have a limited hierarchy and limited ways to visualize cross-space dependencies. Actually, we do have a couple of links here between the epics, between the tasks or stories within my space, but if I create such a link to an item in a different space, it will only be visible in the linked work items section. So I don't see the actual line connecting the two dots, and hence I have no real idea how this can affect the linked work items in the other spaces. Another trap Jira users can fall into is something that we can call disconnected progress. What do I mean by that? Imagine teams working in different frameworks, some teams using Scrum, some teams using Kanban, and the Scrum teams, some of them use time estimates, some story points, or some t-shirt sizes, or whatever other estimation method. Now within Jira, if we want to create a dashboard, as an example, right? Let's have a look at the dashboards. We do have a list of available reports, and we can see, for example, how is the workload distributed between our team members. It works really well when it comes to tasks assigned to myself. I can generate some issue statistics. So for example, how many issues belong to different strategic themes that I've created. But when it comes to detailed status reports, I only can rely on the statuses, and that does not really tell me much, especially that a general status overview would not be as granular as I would like it to be. If I look at pie charts for each space that I've created, these are simply not weighted. What does this mean? Within my to-do items, I can have all the work that has high estimates, requires more story points to complete, requires more time to complete, the t-shirt sizing is bigger, and that report does not really match the reality. Now within Jira, of course, you can export your data. So let's open one of the filters here and export my data to all sorts of different formats, Excel, Word, HTML, but we'll end up with the exact information or a flat list of tasks exported. That means that I will need to spend another couple of hours making sure that the Excel reports actually provide the information I need to present to my stakeholders in form of a report. And that simply is a waste of time that I can spend on something more productive and actually take care of the project if I was the project manager. Another downside of exporting your data into Excel is that the minute you export, it becomes outdated. The reality on the ground has already changed while your leadership is looking at the report. This means that you're making decisions on last week's ghost data. Now we can use filters and create dashboards with more detailed reports. For example, I would like to see all the issues that are not assigned to anyone and overdue and not resolved. So status category not equal to done. Now, depending on your data, this can be a very valuable report. In my case, I made a small mistake. I wanted to say is not equal to done. So from 192 issues that were already completed, I will end up with another long list of over 2000 issues. Of course, we could argue that they are in the backlog and we can further filter them out, but having to jump from one filter to the other just to get the report you need is again a huge waste of time. So if your leadership makes decisions based on reports that take more than 10 minutes to generate, your system is broken. And believe me that I've seen that so many times. So many of Jira users still struggle with generating these reports instead of relying on live data that is accurate and allows you to see the big picture. Now, if you want to learn more, visit our website or check out other videos on our channel where we address such challenges. So to sum up, why Jira fails at scale. So first, there are the performance bottlenecks. Standard filters or dashboards often slow down or time out when processing thousands of issues simultaneously. Second, the flat hierarchy limitation. Standard Jira offers 3 levels. These are the epics, tasks, and subtasks, which is simply insufficient to aggregate data across projects, programs, and portfolios. And lastly, the lack of weighted progress. Base Jira treats every ticket as equal. So is there a solution for all the challenges that Jira users face? The answer is yes, but it's not that straightforward. Now, there are plenty of solutions on the Atlassian's marketplace. There are different PPM apps such as Structure, BigPicture, WBS Gantt, and several others. Now, if you want to learn more, I highly recommend that you watch one of our earlier videos where we compare the top Gantt and road mapping tools and check what all these different solutions offer, because they do differ significantly in some areas. Now, in this video, we'll focus on Structure and Structure Gantt apps. So spoiler alert, yes, Structure and BigPicture are, in our opinion, the top tools available for Jira that address all these challenges, and let's have a look at a couple of examples. But before we do that, let me explain what Structure is in case you're not familiar with that app. So Structure and Structure Gantt are very popular PPM tools for Jira designed to help teams manage complex projects that go beyond Jira's native flat hierarchy or the epics, stories or tasks and subtasks. So Structure, long story short, is a dynamic spreadsheet that allows you to create custom hierarchies that I will show you shortly, aggregate data, automatically pull in data and group your data based on defined rules, as well as make all sorts of calculations on that data. And the Gantt app basically visualizes your work items on a timeline. Think of it as a more advanced timeline that you already have in your Jira. So let's have a look at some examples how Structure can help you address the challenges that we identified in the first part of the video. First of all, what you see here is a complete list of work items from all my Jira spaces. So there's quite a lot of them. Now, the first thing I would like to show you is how easy it is to reorganize this view, this list, and group by strategic themes that I've created earlier. Now, in the top left corner, you'll see the Add button. This Add button allows you to configure the generators. So there are different types of generators that, for example, allow you to build a hierarchy based on predefined set of rules, insert Jira work items or pull in Jira based on JQLs or other rules, extend your hierarchy, filter, group, sort, and create work items or flex items that are specific to structure. I won't be covering them in this video. Now, what I would like to do is to actually create a level on top of the current hierarchy I have, or to reorganize the group of issues using the strategic themes that I've created earlier. So all I need to do here is select the group generator. There are different ways to do that. You can group by a field, you can group by work item links. So anytime you create a link, Jira will indent, outdent issues in the hierarchy, or create a specific formula for that purpose. I will use the first option, as I've created a field for that purpose. And if you're familiar with the concept of parent link, it works on a very similar basis. Now, I have my field here, strategic theme. I would like to group it on level 1. Let's hit create and let's see what happens to my list of issues. Now, quite a lot of things happened here. This is because I've already populated some of the data. Here I've already configured this view, but the most important thing for that example is actually this level within the hierarchy. So we have 4 strategic themes that I've created, and already you can see the rollups for each of them. Now I have other fields created here as well. This includes the due date, assignee, the sum of original estimates, the time spent. Let's also edit this column to see the sum of all the sub items, as well as 2 progress bars. So this is something that we'll address in the next example, as these are configured differently. One is weighted, other simply relies on the statuses of the Jira work items. And we also have the strategic theme here, so I can inline edit this directly, and every time I inline edit such a field, it will be automatically added to the correct group. As soon as I select the value, they will be added to the correct group, so they disappear from that list. How great is that? Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the weighted or rolled up and weighted progress. Let's have a look at some of my sample data that I've created here. If I remember correctly, it was one of the epics right here, where I do have several tasks that were estimated with 1 day estimate and one longer task that took 2 weeks, 4 days as an example. Now, if we look at the progress here, you'll see that for the whole epic, we have 2 different indications. In the first case, my progress is 53%. And the reason here is because it looks at the actual sum of time estimates. In case of this progress, the progress is 91%. And that's because we have, I think, around 15 or 16 tasks and just 1 task that is in progress, while the other ones are all completed. Now, if I click on this progress, I can edit this column and you will see how the progress is calculated. So even for the task that is in progress, it actually counts it as 50% done. Now, in my case, all child work items are equal, but I can use time estimates or story points and already weigh them using this simple weighting method. Now, if you have a use case when different teams use different estimating methods, Structure can also work with that. Instead of using the out-of-the-box progress formula, you can create a custom formula that will convert all the different units into unified values with a common denominator. Assuming all your teams use time estimates, out-of-the-box progress that calculates the progress based on time tracking will be more precise, will be as accurate as possible, and hence show me the correct progress for this particular epic and roll it up all the way to the strategic theme or any level within the hierarchy that you've created above the epics. Now, I mentioned formula fields, and these are really great. You actually see some examples in the issue list here. So I have several formulas. I have the overdue formula that checks whether due date for this particular task is approaching or we still have time. Also, if there is no due date, if the data is missing, it also indicates this with this red cross. If we are ahead of the due date or the task is completed, we'll have the smiley face. We can also have the information that the due date is approaching. So that's really good when you want to have a quick look at all the tasks tasks that should be completed. You can of course organize or filter using all these values. I've also added another field that will tell me how much time I have left until the due date, so 8 hours in that case, 1 week, 5 days, and so on and so forth. I've also added a field that's called scope creep. Let's see if we have any values. Yeah, so scope creep, this is a formula that looks at all the issues that were recently added to my project within the last 1 or 2 weeks. This allows me to quickly identify the scope creep without the need for having a dedicated filter and again switching views, jumping from screen to screen. And something that I really like is the formula right here. I've actually recreated the JQL that I've shown you in the first part of the video, where it checks whether the assign is empty, whether the status is not in the done category, and whether the task is overdue. So a couple of ideas how you can combine all these different dashboards, filters in a single big picture view. How great is that? Now, the last thing I wanted to show you here are the cross-project dependencies. So if we look at my issue keys, I have some items here from a different project. Now, if there are cross-project dependencies, all I really need to do is to create a dependency link, and you will see that the structure automatically pushes it on the timeline. On the Gantt chart, there are different types of links. 4 types of links: finish to finish, start to start, start to finish, finish to start. All these will behave differently depending on the direction of the link. Now, the great thing here is that as soon as I update any dates of this particular item, or in my case, I actually update the original estimate as I'm using time estimates to estimate the effort. As soon as I make a change here, or for example, I update the estimate of one of the tasks here, this will result in updating the epic. This will result in updating this particular task, and as a result, the parent epic will be also recalculated. So you don't have to worry whether your roadmap is up to date whenever you have updated the effort estimates for your work items. All is automated, all is visible in this view. I can of course further update my issue list here, check for updated issues, making sure that I have full control of my timelines of all my work, all in a single place. So to summarize, visibility at scale isn't about seeing more data. It's about seeing the right data through the right lens. If you want to get most out of these powerful tools, expert assistance is highly recommended. This is because you're not really configuring it only for your team's needs, but for the whole organization. And configuring these complex, high volume environments requires more than just admin skills. It requires a PMO architecture expertise. So if you want to stop drowning in tickets and start leading with data, head to geniusgecko.com to transform your 5,000 plus Jira issues into a single source of truth. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.